Hi, good morning, everyone. Hope you're having a good time so far. I'm going to talk a little bit about implementing the 10 programs in the Singapore EMS system. I tell most people to just call me YY, but my name is Yi Ying. So in Singapore, we tend to put the family name first. So typically, if you are in Singapore, you call me Ng Yi Ying, okay? Yeah, but YY for short is great. Okay, so just going to give you a quick run through. I actually have quite a few slides, but I'm going to do it almost like a picture show. So this is just a quick overview of Singapore versus Australia, okay? It's no fight, okay? Australia is like 10,000 times bigger, and well, your population is 5 times bigger than Singapore. So where would Singapore be in comparison, right? This is roughly what it looks like. We're just at the tip of the small A. That's the size of Singapore, just for reference, okay? So this is, I really don't know what you guys have to learn from us, honestly speaking, but I'll try, okay? So that's us. Okay, so that's me. No conflicts of interest to declare. I work for the military, and I was seconded to the ambulance service for about 6 years, and I've been doing care transformation for the ambulance service for that period of time. So a very, very quick summary of the Singapore Civil Defence Force. We are a two-tiered system. The basic tier is actually the EMS tier, where the response time is 11 minutes, 80% of the time. We have 75 ambulances now in the whole system. And as of now, I have 30 fire bikes, as well as these things called the LF, which is like an all-terrain vehicle. And they attend to selected high acuity cases. So this is what it looks like. And you've guys seen the 10 programs, right? This is what it's been explained to you, but I'm hoping to give a different perspective of the 10 programs. I would be amiss if I didn't use a better analogy, which is I would look at it like a burger, okay? So this is the 10 programs reimagined for Australia, perhaps. So firstly, the bread and butter of the 10 programs, right, really is that you start off with a cardiac arrest registry. We talked about this before. And the meat of the program, right, is really CPR training for the community, AED programs, and also smart technologies to bring and enable the community to respond. Because, you know, we know that early CPR, early defibrillation is actually key to the system. And of course, the cheese and the flavor really comes from the quality improvement we have for the professionals. High performance CPR, measuring resuscitation, and of course, accountability, which is the lettuce. Nobody likes that, but you know, we have to have it, right? It's good for us. And lastly, of course, the culture of excellence, which is the sesame seed bun on top to top it all off. But not forgetting the secret sauce. Yes, and the secret sauce, of course, would be rapid dispatch, telephone CPR, and I'll talk about this in a short while. So could someone take a photo of this, tag it on Twitter, send it to Endor or the Resuscitation Academy? Yep, thanks. Okay, so I'm going to be a little faster after this, now that I've talked about the concept or grouping the ideas together. So we're going to start with the cardiac arrest registry. For us, right, we actually started with PAROS, which is the Pan-Asian Resuscitation Outcome Study. We've started looking at cardiac arrest data for some time. Initially, it was very, very sporadic, but over time, we've managed to group many of the Asian countries. I think today we have about 14 or 15 countries. In 2010, we first started getting a lot of different countries in fairly disparate places together. And I think this one was held in Korea. And there's a little bit of history behind this with Brian McNally and a few other people. I think Paul Middleton was somewhere involved, and somewhere in Spain over a lot of beers. So unfortunately, Paul wasn't here. It's not here today, I think. But that's how we started. And since then, we've been publishing a lot of papers in the Asian registry. And I think there are also some collaborations with OSROC. Okay, so I'm going to go into the secret sauce straight away, just after the bun. It's really dispatch. I think dispatch really drives a lot of things, and they are force multiplier for any EMS system. So for us, right, we started our journey with telephone CPR. And we started reviewing our calls. Previously, a lot of times people say that they're doing telephone CPR, but they're not. And it was the same for us. We started playing the calls back to the dispatchers immediately after the shift. When the shift ended, we made them stay back for half an hour. We played the calls. So after that, when we realized a lot of the issues that we have, we worked with Liddell, and then we started the telephone CPR workshop to sort of like put the reset button, put in a lot of simulation training for difficult calls, failed calls, calls that we didn't do well. So people had to really acknowledge this, and we started looking in at, following up with some of the standards. Now today, AHA is already recommending 3 minutes for sort of like minimum standards and 2 minutes for high performance. And we started, of course, collecting data, and we started listening to calls qualitatively and quantitatively to collect data on every single cardiac arrest call. So 100% of the calls are audited. So this is the outcome. So from the day that we actually started the telephone CPR quality improvement program, we realized that the bystander CPR rates actually shot up. So it was actually very dramatic for us. And it's been about 50% since, from a 20% in the last 4 or 5 years. So the other thing that we've done for rapid dispatch is that we moved from a vertical dispatch system to a horizontal dispatch, because some of this was really software and hardware driven, which we couldn't do until the whole system shifted. But we advocated for quite a while, and it happened. We also moved to a tiered response system where we get assistance from the fire bike, so that we have a large group of people that will go for cardiac arrest calls. So that way you get a fire bike that weaves through traffic, you have a 4-man firefighter EMT team, plus an ambulance for cardiac arrest call. So this is what some of these vehicles look like. The LF is over there. It's also affectionately called the Red Rhino for us. And over time, we're going to bring the pump and ladders as well. So we're going to get more and more firefighters involved in EMS. So some ongoing work, we are actually already starting with some trials with automatic speech recognition, so speech to text, so that when the call taker is taking calls, you also see subtitles going on. We're also doing this in 4 languages, and these are trials. And of course, this also will feed back to auditing of hopefully 100% of all our calls, not just cardiac arrest calls. And also, we're doing some trials with AI to do tiering of priorities, P1s, P2s, P3s, P4. So it's still trial, it's not really fully operational yet. So we are testing out with data, and we are going to see how this pans out in the future. Okay, so next to the meat of the subject, which is community. And community is really the biggest part of the cardiac arrest chain of survival. So we moved from a 4-hour certification course to a community CPR awareness program. So from 240 minutes to 40 minutes. We did a lot of surveys, we did a lot of focus groups, and we found out that actually, 20% of the population did not know 995 was for ambulances. So we actually realized that we had such problems. And also there are a lot of people who still don't recognize the AED signs or are aware that anyone could use an AED. So these were some of the things that we had to reimagine from doing design thinking, and we of course stole quite a lot of ideas, as what Tony would tell you. Okay, steal ideas is fine. So we stole this from the Japanese, right? They started their school programs from preschool, and the kids do this all the way until middle school or up to high school in some places in Tokyo. So we've actually started this, and we've turned it into a national program. So all the schools are involved, and it's a very nice whole of government type of approach. Ministry of Health, Ministry of Home Affairs, Ministry of Education, the SCDF, and all the kids are doing this as part of the school educational program. 40 minutes because it is a school period. So that's exactly the right period of time to hold their attention. Okay, so next we also looked at building a public access defibrillation registry. We worked with the Singapore Heart Foundation to create collaterals for AED building owners. How do you manage your AED? We started registering the AEDs. We put all the expiry dates of the pads and the batteries on the glass. Anyone can see it in any of our AED programs for a registered AED. So what we found out in the first year, shockingly, was that 12.8% of the AEDs were not working in some way. Either, sometimes they were working, but the pads were expired, the batteries were expired, although the lights were, blinking, because I think these things have some spare capacity. But over 4 years, you can see that we've actually eliminated most of the issues, and I think now we are seeing just maybe small sporadic issues with AEDs, but that's not bad. And the other problem is this: residential AEDs, right, is really a challenge. This is a paper published by Freddie's group. And, essentially most AEDs, right, they are fired off are all in the public areas and very little in the residential areas. So for us, right, we live packed like sardines in Singapore. So this is a typical housing estate in Singapore. So 10,000 high-rise public housing building blocks housing about 3 million people. So of course, the opportunity was that 70% of the cardiac arrest happens in residential areas. It's probably true for Australia, New Zealand as well. So we managed to pitch to get half of the buildings equipped with AEDs at the lift lobbies. And so far, I think the multiple efforts and the bundle of efforts that we have, we are seeing a nice rise in AED usage. And I only have data to 2016, and this is when we first started installing the residential AED. So I think we're quite excited about 2017, 2018, and I think that we should see a lot more use of AEDs, and we're still waiting for the data to come in. Okay. So smart technologies, okay, so this is a clip from a TV series called Tanglin. It's like Neighbours, but without Jason Donovan or Kylie Minogue, so comes back, okay? No surprise. Oh, sorry, this seems to be running backwards. Sorry, yeah. So the other thing that we do is this, we've been running a trial with the CPR cards. So we've been actually doing the DARE program, and for people who are volunteers, you get a little card that has a accelerometer. So it records data when you actually use it to do CPR. So it actually tells you the rate and depth when you're doing chest compressions. So with this program and the MyResponder, we've actually collected about 12 cases of actual first responders who are non-doctors, non-nurses doing CPR on actual people. So we've learned quite a few things. It's still an ongoing study, so I don't really have the results, but I think the preliminary data tells us that we need to teach people to push a lot harder. Even with the accelerometer feedback, there are people who don't press as hard and they're really quite scared. So I think these are some lessons that we're learning from this real-world experience of bystanders actually doing CPR. So with professional resuscitation, I think a lot of the talks you'll hear, and I think you'll hear much better talks than me on this topic. We have moved to an 8-man model, okay, with the firefighters and 3 EMS crew. Okay, we're also measuring. So there are a few things that we're bringing in. Now we are able to bring in most of the AEDs from public access defibrillation to see the data from our X series. We are still thinking about audio recording, and now our paramedics are starting body-worn cameras. So we're trying to see how to incorporate this into a debriefing session. So I'm almost at the end. So accountability, we've started looking and publishing our data from our cardiac arrest registry locally. So it's still about 2 years behind, and we're trying to see how to shorten the cycle because we have some problems with data sharing across different ministries. So it's been taking 2 years to sort of like gather and clean the data. But of course, with time, technology, some of this will actually become a lot faster. As you can see, we are still on an uptrend, and we are hoping to continue to do this with improving bystander CPR rates, AED usage, and of course, survival rates. And the last one, I think the last one and the most difficult to define is what is the culture of excellence? And to me, cultural excellence is really when you can get a lot of different disparate partners to understand the idea of why we need to do better resuscitation. We started doing the Resuscitation Academy in 2017. We've run about 3 courses so far. I think we're doing it on an annual basis. But I think the best thing about what I can say about cultural excellence for us is that we've managed to get people from the Ministry of Health, we managed to get people from the hospitals, we managed to get people from the fire department, firefighters to do the Resuscitation Academy workshop. So I think this whole of government type of approach, right, where it's not just isolated silo activities that academics are talking about or only the hospital doctors are talking about, it's really everyone in the system who are stakeholders, they're all participating, they're sharing and trying to understand each other's issues to work together and coordinate the chain of survival. So I think to me, that is really how cultural excellence should be in the system. And this is a summary. I hope I haven't overrun my time. And if you have any questions, I think we can take it at the break. I understand time is a little tight. Thank you very much.